Today's Mac Voices is supported by Smile and the various flavors of PDF Pen. See how PDF Pen, PDF Pen Pro, and PDF Pen for iOS can help you do more with your PDFs at smilesoftware.com. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's been a little while, it seems like, since we've talked to any Take Control authors. We kind of do these in fits and spurts. As they come on board, we get them to talk about their books, and then they disappear for a while. Then they come back. This time, though, we've got Mr. Jeff Carlson to talk about the latest, not the latest edition. This is sort of a new edition, Jeff, of the Take Control of Apple Watch 1.0.
Yes, exactly.
The book, not the watch, the book.
The book, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be something. Let's write an entire book about like the original series. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, we did that. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And, when we were doing pre-show talk like we always do, I didn't realize that this book had not been updated since it was written as a crash course book.
Yes. So the way this book started, this book actually came out before the Apple Watch did. The idea was we're going to write a Take Control crash course, and just do it quickly, give all the information that we knew at the time about the Apple Watch, so that people could make informed decisions about what watch they wanted to buy. Because if you remember back to those first days of the Apple Watch, I mean, the Apple Watch was like the next major product that Apple was releasing after the iPhone and the iPad. This was like this amazing gamble on Apple's part to be not just a computing company, but now they're like in fashion. And if you remember the very first Apple Watches, like there were ones that were gold and which were beautiful. At least the videos were beautiful. I loved seeing those. And so, but they were also like $17,000 or something crazy like that. Which, and at the time you're like that's insane, because you're asking like $1,000 for an iPad, and an iPad does everything, and an Apple Watch does it tells the time and it does a bunch of things, but come on, like what's the value there? But then you also had to think about like the greater watch market, where honestly for some watches $17,000 is still a steal. So like there's this weird, kind of like weird balance, weird introduction that Apple was going for. And so, we, and I'm sure other publishers were like, all right, this is something brand new. People are excited about it. It's super interesting. Let's do a book about it. So we did. We did this book that came out, I want to say a few weeks or maybe a month before the actual Apple Watch shipped. And then as soon as it was out and as soon as I had one, then we updated the content with, sort of, now that we have one to use, we can go a little bit more in depth. And so we did that. And then we updated it once more for the Apple Watch Series 2 when it came out the next year, which added a bunch of new features and such. And then nothing really happened. It's one of those things where the book sold, but it didn't really sell in sufficient numbers to really justify doing another update. And so we thought, okay, the Apple Watch is this great new product, but it was very new. Like we were very much on the cusp. And I think because of that, there wasn't, as much, market penetration. Like you just didn't see them everywhere. It was this niche device. And they're just, this is my speculation. I think there just weren't that many people who had them yet where they wanted to get a book about everything. So, it was this kind of weird thing where like actually Take Control sold the book for quite a while. And, we discounted the price heavily. Joe Kissel and I, had discussions like, okay, well, should we just kill it? Should we, give it away for free? What should we do? Excuse me. And the reality was maybe 80-90% of the book was still totally accurate, totally helpful. So we discounted it to some very, very small amount, left it there, and kind of said, hey, chalk that one up to experience, moved on to other things, and there you go. And I want to say last year, perhaps, Joe came back to me and he said, well, whenever we do surveys of our take control audience, like the Apple Watch keeps coming up as an interesting, or as a topic that people want to know more about, or they want to have an update for. And he's like, and people email me questions all the time. So what if we made this into a real take control book? So get rid of the crash course format and fill it out with the type of take control information that our readers are expecting. I want to say the final page count is somewhere like 180 pages, which kind of surprises me because you're like, it's a watch, it's this like tiny thing. But we're now on the Series 5 watch, running watchOS 6. I'm sure that those will be advanced this year again, and the watch does quite an awful lot. And even if there's only maybe 4 or 5 different features that you use on a daily basis, there's so much there. It actually surprised me, and I'm supposed to know all this stuff. As I was updating the book, I'm going through and it's like we took the crash course bones and built on top of that. I didn't start like completely from scratch because that would be insane, honestly. And so and I'm going through and I'm updating things, and there were just like a few things I was like, oh, I did not even know this feature was here, or here's something that I'd completely forgotten about because it's not something that I touch every day. And it's that kind of thing where this is now a mature product. It does a lot of stuff, and if you want an Apple Watch to track your exercise and tell time and stay on top of notifications, it'll absolutely do that. It'll also do crazy things like control your Apple TV, and the new compass feature, for example, is pretty cool about getting you on track to where you want to be. Just like stuff like that, where it has Apple's what's a good word? Like Apple's attention and precision. Like somebody there was like, okay, let's really think this through. How are we going to make this a good addition without feeling bolted on? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, first of all, I can't believe it's been that long since our last conversation about an Apple Watch book.
I know.
But during that time, the watch has evolved, its capabilities, its functions, kind of maybe even its direction. I mean, now it is being billed almost as much as a health device as
Oh yeah.
what I will loosely term a productivity device. And I say productivity simply because that's the way I tend to use it, to keep track of texts and alerts and alarms and those kind of things. But not quite sure I want to get my mail on it. But I can control the S lady with it. I'm not going to say her name because then she will appear and interrupt us. And you control it in a much more personal manner by, just raising your wrist to your watch, or your watch to your wrist to your mouth. Oh boy.
Right.
So yeah, it feels like, it was one of those. I didn't buy it because it was an Apple product, but I think a lot of people did buy it just because it was an Apple product. Now you buy it because it is the watch that you want. And
yes.
It now dominates the watch market. If you don't believe it, well, we can't go out in public right now as we record this, folks, because we're on lockdown. But next time you do go out in public, or even a small public, take a look around and see how many watches there are. It's kind of amazing how it's been so widely adopted.
Well, that's exactly it, and that kind of follows the same thing. And I can say this from my perspective as somebody who has, owned Apple products for decades now, literally, and followed the industry. And the iPhone was like this. The iPhone was this. It was going to be this niche little thing. I believe Steve Jobs had said at one point during the introduction, like we're going to shoot for 1% of the market, and if we can do that, that's a success. Because the mobile phone market was so huge, they just wanted to kind of crack into it and then kind of build from there. And so, for, I don't know, several months after the iPhone came out, like, every once in a while, like you'd see one. You'd be like, oh, that guy's got and he's got a phone. Oh, okay. And, and then suddenly you saw them everywhere. The same with like the iPod. The iPod came out, and suddenly everybody had, white earbuds, because that was like so different. So you saw those in public. Look at both of us now. Like, we both have AirPods. I see AirPods everywhere, and so it's that same sort of slow adoption with the Apple Watch. I want to say like maybe 3 years ago, I just started seeing them everywhere. And I know I live in Seattle, which is a very tech-heavy town, but this is also a very, Microsoft, Google, Amazon town. And the watches are everywhere because it's really well made, it's really well implemented, and quite honestly, like, it's sort of outlasted efforts by Google. I'm not. I think Android Wear is either like been mothballed or discontinued this last year. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something different. But like the if you want a smartwatch, you get an Apple Watch. Even to the point where if you want a smart fitness tracker, a friend of mine, she's like, I'm in lockdown, but I want to still count my steps and stuff. Do I want to get a Fitbit, or do I want to get an Apple Watch? And a lot of the people who responded to her text, they were like, I got an Apple Watch because it does better for me, and like it does more than just track your steps. It gives you motivational messages, which actually are not annoying. I thought they were going to be super annoying, and there are times when the watch is like, "Hey, you did nothing yesterday. Why don't you increase that?" And I'm like, "Oh, shut up! I know I'm sitting up here and I can't go anywhere."
Yeah. Yeah, well, there is that. But and we all still tell jokes about, at a certain time of the hour, it tells everybody
Yep.
to stand up.
We
Okay,
stand up.
fine.
Yep.
But I think we've gotten past some of that initial, the geek reaction to it, and I think,
Yes.
we're back to that conversation about Apple producing more products for the mainstream. The geeks pick on
Mhm.
certain things. The geeks would like to be able to dig in there and tinker around with it, and Apple says, no, 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 this is for the average everyman that isn't a geek,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet it is incredibly useful. And that's why I wanted to make sure we got to how you approach this, because for one person it's a health device, for another one it's a productivity
Yeah.
device, for somebody else it might be a mobile music and audio device, because now you
Yeah.
can store some of your assets in your phone.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, how do you try to break it down by use cases or by features or functions?
I do. I do. So one of the things that I added to the book was just sort of like first tasks. Like, even if you have had an Apple Watch for a while, like, start with this chapter, because there are a few things that that I find useful. Like, set up your notifications the right way, because you can go insane if everything is just sort of hitting your wrist all the time, right? So you can do things like one of the things I find most useful is in your email you can set up someone as a VIP, right? That's in the Mail app on the phone or on the Mac. Well, there's a setting on the Apple Watch that says only show me emails from VIPs. So I obviously don't want to be alerted or be shown emails that I get from Best Buy and like all of that kind of stuff, because that's not where I want my attention to be drawn. But if Joe, my editor, if he sends me an email, it's most likely going to be something that I need to respond to or know about, or maybe he has, like, in the case of this book, he has a couple of questions on the edit, and so like my watch will tell me, oh, Joe sent me something, or if my wife emails me something, then obviously that pops up right away, and so it helps me just deal with distraction and attention, which I think is kind of the big deal about the watch. I mean, yes, it does all these things, but it's also cognizant that it can't have your attention all the time. It doesn't want your attention all the time. Something like, excuse me, something like your Mac, even your phone, your iPad, when you engage with it, it's got stuff to do. Like, it wants you to do stuff. It wants your attention. The watch, you know, you're not going to sit and spend a whole lot of time just looking down at your watch and do, and just sort of messing with it. It's not designed that way, and so it's very much designed to sort of pop up and say, hey, here's something you need to know about, and then go away. And you can control that, and there are things that you can do to spend more time on your watch. Actually, there are games that people have written for the watch that if you remember the old there was an old video game called Tempest, and someone made a version of that. I need to find the name of it, but they made a version of that, and it's brilliant because Tempest is basically just I'm not going to find it because I'm talking about it. Tempest is basically like you're this little ship, and you're sort of looking down a black hole, and you're shooting things that come at you. Well, the only thing that you need is the digital crown on the side to just turn the ship around. Okay, so it's cute. It's not cute, but it's small and like a good distraction if you just have 2 minutes and you don't want to deal with anything else on your big screens, that sort of thing.
MacVoices is powered by Smile, the makers of world-class software. Working from home means that you're probably experiencing lots of changes to not just your daily routine, but also to your business workflows. Yeah, we all said we were going paperless, but now most of us are having the reality of that hit, and some of us have come to better understand the benefits and challenges of creating, distributing, and using PDFs to their fullest extent. And that's why you need PDF Pen. PDF Pen is both simple and powerful when it comes to working with PDFs. Optical character recognition takes scanned PDFs and turns them into selectable, editable text. Secure redacting makes sure that what you want removed from a PDF really is removed and not just covered up. Add signatures to your PDFs, fully edit and correct typos, even add file and audio attachments to your PDFs. Or kick it up a notch with PDF Pen Pro, which adds the ability to export to Microsoft Excel to save hours of re-input. Export to PowerPoint so that your document looks good in either PowerPoint or Keynote. Create and edit tables, one of the most challenging things to accomplish in PDFs. And let's not forget PDF Pen for iPhone and iPad, when you need to access and edit your PDFs on the go. Right now, as the barrage of PDFs hits your inbox, is the perfect time to download a free trial of PDF Pen at smilesoftware.com/podcasts. It will quickly become one of your most used utilities. That's smilesoftware.com/podcasts for a free trial of PDF Pen, as well as links to all their other world-class software. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices.
So I have it's set up largely to deal with those first tasks, and then it has a lot of how to interact with it, how to personalize it, but then it's broken into chunks. So how to deal with apps and notifications, how to do communications, all the different ways that you can communicate with people, from using the walkie-talkie app to where you can talk to somebody else on their watch just immediately in little bursts, to doing email, which is another example of that, like intentionally limited implementation. You can compose emails. It's a little chunky, but it also knows that you're not going to just sit on your watch and do all of your daily email. What it will let you do is let you scan through and see which things might be important, and maybe delete or archive things, and like maybe quickly reply to like an email from you saying, hey, can we talk on this day? And I'll say, be able to just kind of fire that back without thinking, oh, like I really need to tell Chuck that I'm available at this time, but my phone is over on the other table, and that kind of a thing. And then there's the productivity stuff, dealing with maps, doing directions. There's some calendars and reminder stuff. There's a whole section on all the health stuff. So it is broken up topically in that way, just because there are so many different ways of coming at it. I mean, honestly, you can do a lot with calendars and reminders and stuff. I don't know how many people will want to do that. Like maybe they just want to be able to access their calendar or use a third-party calendar. And some people are just like, I don't need my watch to be my secretary. So, maybe for them, playing media and, doing customizations, like that's more important to them. So it's all there.
Yeah, I need my watch to be my secretary, my assistant, and chief cook and bottle washer if I can make it do it.
Yes, that'd be great.
I really, if there's one phrase I would like for people to take away from this interview and go look at the book, is the intentionally limited, because I think that is such a great point. And again, I think a lot of us were saying, gee, well, I don't want to, how am I going to do email on my watch? Well, they kind of figured out a way that makes sense to do email on your watch and your calendar on your watch. And, it's not, they didn't just slap these things on and say, oh yeah, you've got a calendar on your watch. Great. Well, my schedule is like, 20 appointments a day, so that's going to be useless. Well, no, it's really not, because of how well thought out this is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think also, wow. I think that I had a thought there and it just evaporated.
Just evaporated right in front of us. Right in front of us.
I need
Jeff,
more coffee.
As you said, we're on WatchOS 6, and we're on, model 5 of the Apple Watch.
Mm-hmm.
And the evolution has been, each model gets a little more powerful, a little more interesting, a little bit different. Where do you stand on the I don't know what the position, I guess. Is the Apple Watch useful without an iPhone at all?
No, that's a great question. It is actually. So at first it wasn't. I mean, at first it was literally, the apps ran on the iPhone and just sort of like sent like the results of the app to the watch. Things have dramatically improved in that respect since then. And I have to say, if anybody's watching this and you still have like a Series 1 or Series 2 or the original Apple Watch, and you get like a Series 5, it's going to seem so amazing because at first you're like, okay, well, like processor speed, that's not going to really matter in a watch, is it? And I had like my evolution of the Apple Watch. I had like the very first one, the Series 0, and I had that literally up until last year, because there were improvements to the watch, but there was nothing that really made me like say, oh, okay, this year I really need to take advantage of X, Y, or Z feature, because 80% of what I use the watch for are notifications, health tracking, things like that. And that was kind of covered. And it was slow, and you'd, launch an app and wait a few seconds. And so when I bought my current watch, which is a Series 4, like it was the best kind of upgrade because things are snappy, they're quick, the screen's a little bit larger. So if you are on an old watch and you're thinking, maybe I want to take advantage of some of these new features, like definitely do it because it will seem like such a great advancement, like just that little satisfaction to it. Um, but another part of this is that there has been a little bit of a decoupling from the iPhone. Like you still need the iPhone. The iPhone, there's a watch app on the iPhone that lets you manage a lot of the settings. Like some of the settings are on the watch itself, but there are a few things that are on the watch that you need to deal with there. It still relies on the phone for like an internet connection, and I'll loop back to that in just a second. So it's still tethered, but it's not anchored, if that makes sense. So now, and in fact, one of the big things about watchOS 6 is that there's now an app store on the watch, so you don't have to go through the phone to buy an app. If somebody says, "Oh, like here's this great app that I got for my watch," like that game, or like maybe like an exercise app, you can just go and find it in the App Store on the watch, purchase it on the watch, and download it. It gets installed, and like you've kind of removed a layer of friction, which is nice. If you have a cellular watch, which didn't exist when we had that last version of the crash course. If you have a cellular watch, then you can leave your phone at home, and if you have the cellular activated, you can get phone calls and messages and emails and those sorts of things while you're out without having to have the phone nearby. That's great for people who go on long runs or something and they don't want the phone banging in their pocket. And so we're not yet at the point where you can just buy a watch and not own any other Apple product and sort of have it be this sole solitary device, but we're getting a lot closer. And the thing that I was going to loop back to is that one of the things that I discovered while I was testing this is, okay, so the watch is connected to the phone by Bluetooth, and that's kind of its preferred method of talking back and forth because it's low power, it's short range. But the watch can also connect to Wi-Fi. So if your phone is out of Bluetooth range, then the watch will connect to, say, your home's Wi-Fi. Well, one thing that I discovered and had frustrated me literally for years, but it wasn't as much of a frustration that I needed to really dig into it until I started doing this, was I would be I would have my watch up in my office, and I would go downstairs and I would make coffee, and that would be farther than the Bluetooth range. And I'd look at my watch, and my watch would say, "Oh, I'm disconnected from the phone." It's like, but I'm still in the same Wi-Fi network. Well, it turns out that there is a setting, it's described in my book, where basically like you need to go and specify your home network or your office network or whatever as like the preferred network to connect to when your phone is out of range. And you can specify like automatically connect to it or ask me to connect to it or don't connect to it. And so like even though the network was there, my phone did not know that, oh, well, if my watch did not know that if the phone is out of range, I should just go ahead and connect to this Wi-Fi network that's right here. So now it automatically does that, and it doesn't matter where my phone is, I can still get all my messages. So, like those kind of little things I think are what make a book like this valuable, because, there's that inclination. You're like, okay, well, this isn't working right now, and I'm not even sure how to start troubleshooting it. And it's not really that big of a deal, so I'm just not going to worry about it. And then it pops up again, and you're like, oh yeah, there's that thing that annoyed me, but where do I start? I don't know. I'll just go find my phone, whatever. It's those kind of things that, you have weirdly obsessive people like me who are like, all right, I need to find an answer to this because it's driving me crazy, and I'm going to put it in this book.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That is exactly one of the huge values of this book. That, and someone who's getting started with the watch for the first time.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but it seems like every time I ignore one of those things, or I turn off a setting, it's like I'll deal with that later. And then
Yeah.
something happens and I really, really need it to work. And no, it's not. And I then at that point, I really don't have the time to troubleshoot it and figure it out. And so I just get triply frustrated. So
Yeah.
that's the book is worth its weight in gold as far as I'm concerned from that standpoint. Next time on Mac Voices, Jeff continues his discussion of his new Take Control of Apple Watch book by touching on third-party applications, the many health benefits and features of Apple Watch, and more. I hope you'll join us then. I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.